Hey guys, how are you doing? This is our third video on this. I apologize. I'm not sure where the heck this sucker got cut off the last time he did this, so I'm going to go back in this. This is the second chapter I want to review. This is transmission transaxle removal, disassembly. The first thing the author kind of gets into here is repair options. I think we've discussed this in class before. I'm not sure if it was the last lecture or previous lectures, but the important thing to realize is when you do have a transmission failure, you have options, or your customers have options as far as which way they want to go. If they want to pull the transmission and have it rebuilt, or put a remanufactured transmission in. I'll just give you a quick rundown. The advantage of a remanufactured transmission over a overhaul is a remanufactured transmission has a much faster turnaround time for the shop. So if your transmission fails, you can get it in, get it fixed, get it back on the road within a couple of days. If you pull it and overhaul it, you're probably going to find that, this is going to take a few days. You're waiting on parts. You got to put the customer in a rental car, that kind of thing, and it becomes a little bit more of a risk for the shop as far as turning a profit. Another thing you're going to find too is most shops, even mid-sized to small dealerships, do not have technicians that are qualified or the special tools to rebuild some of these units. So in a lot of cases, a lot of these shops are just going to a remanufactured transmission replacement. So you're going to find a lot of that going on in the industry. Another advantage in the dealer or the author also discusses this is the warranty coverage. If you're an independent shop and you rebuild the transmission, basically the warranty is on you. So if the transmission fails within the provisions of whatever warranty you give that customer, you're the one that's going to have to pay for the repair or do the repair yourself. If it's a remanufactured transmission and it fails within the provisions of that remanufactured transmission company's warranty, you can actually get reimbursed for fixing it. You can get reimbursed for swapping it out and putting a new one in. A little bit more coverage for you as a shop owner, a little bit more coverage for the customer, and it tends to be a little bit more popular of a way to go. So just be aware of that. The reality is, obviously, we're teaching you how to overhaul trannies. These transmissions have to be overhauled somewhere, but in some cases, it makes sense for you to swap them out with an already rebuilt or remanufactured transmission. So that's kind of what that section talks about. The latter part of the section of this book talks about verifying customer complaint, test driving the vehicle, which I think we've covered in some previous videos, kind of how to deal with a test drive, that kind of thing. Once you get to the point where you're ready to pull the transmission and disassemble it, just like what we did in lab, you're going to make sure you got a clean bench. You're going to make sure you're organized on your disassembly. With today's technology, I highly suggest you take pictures as you disassemble the transmission. Oh, another thing you want to be aware of is you want to make sure you have good service information. Transmission service information, in a lot of cases, you're not going to find that in a general service manual. You're going to have to go to an outside source for that. ATRA, the Automatic Transmission Rebuilders Association, and some other online sources, you can instant download a service information or service manual for a pull down and a rebuild of these transmissions. So highly suggest you do that before you take the transmission apart. You want to know what you're up against. You want to know what kind of tools you need. You want to know what kind of serviceable parts are available for that transmission. You want to have all that stuff in front of you, especially if it's a brand new training you haven't done before. So that's really what you want to prepare yourself for. So going through this book, the author's talking about hard parts, soft parts, kits, that kind of thing. What a hard part is, that's going to be a mechanical component that's physically a bearing or a bushing or a planetary set, that type of thing. Soft parts are going to be seals and washers and gaskets, and then a kit is basically going to be a combination of those things. Depending on the level of kit, you may be able to get a complete overhaul kit with clutches and steels and bands and everything you need to put the thing together, and that usually doesn't include hard parts. Hard parts become in a situation where we need to order some things, but kits you can have on the shelf. So kits are typically easier to get. So okay, so there's that first section of that chapter. They do talk about transmission teardown and assembly and things to look for and things to watch out for. You may recognize some of these parts as you go through. They talk about some of the basic checks like an end play check or possibly an air pressure check as you go through disassembly section. And then obviously taking some preliminary measurements to make sure you've got a case that can be used. Inspect the case, check for worn components, cracked, corrosion. Corrosion's a big one. Sometimes you get an aluminum case that's corroded. It's not even worth fixing. So, but go ahead and read through the rest of that chapter. It's a very short chapter. The latter half of that takes you through a transmission disassembly, which is what we did in class. So you should recognize some of this stuff. Ooh, man, look at the filter on that. It's nasty, that rust. Once you start seeing water like that, that's real bad. And then the bearings, where you start to see some metal. A lot of cases, your speed sensors are that have magnets in them, and then you'll see some metal inside those speed sensors. So it's a good indication that something came apart. So, but that's a basic teardown. Again, do the review questions, the chapter quiz questions. Include that in your summary you're going to send to me by 9 o'clock on Sunday. And again, if you guys get any questions, email me. Best way to get a hold of me is email me, and that's cool. All right, guys, have a good day. We'll talk to you. Bye.